topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners. It's Tuesday morning, and I'm thrilled to be here with you because I get to spend time with you. So for everyone who have got our books, thank you, thank you, thank you. A heartfelt thank you, because recently we heard a wonderful story about a global entrepreneur that we were able to help. She was able to get fertilizers and grow a lot of crops, and here's what I can share with you. Not only it helped her family, it also helped her kids to go to a good school. And as y'all know, I'm a fan of education, because here's the thing, folks. Education is just information if you don't do anything with it. If you sit and if you understand that education becomes knowledge, and when you take that knowledge and you implement it strategically, it becomes wisdom. It becomes a way of life. So for any of you folks who is looking to have a mindset makeover in minutes, definitely check out our link. And because what we have done is we have brought the nuggets from world-class experts from their books right here for you to digest it in a matter of minutes and have that mindset makeover. And as always, I'm inviting you to have 1 hour set aside every month and help somebody out. All right, folks. So without further ado, let's bring our guest on. Welcome, Nina.
Hello, Divya.
So how are you this morning?
I am really good, thank you.
So tell us, Nina, if you recall a moment from your childhood where anybody left an impression on you, or if there was a moment that still stands out for you.
Wow, this is a great question, because there has been so many moments, really. But I think one moment from my childhood that I remember was my mum was walking in front of me with her friend. And for some reason, and I don't know why, as a young child, I had this conversation in my head going on, like, what is life about and how do you develop? And then the comment that my mum's friend had made, that you cannot just be living with an attitude, God made me like this, so that's how I'm going to carry on, really struck a chord with me. And I don't know where it came from. Obviously, I was just a young kid, and why was I even thinking about kind of life and so on? But that comment, I remember precisely where we were when I heard this, and I thought, this is something to really take on. To me, it was a message that you have to continue to develop and continue to better yourself and continue to educate yourself and continue to learn. And you can't just accept that this is how I am and this is who I am and this is it. So this was a big moment for a kid.
It is a big moment. And when your mom's friend made that comment, what went through your head?
What went through my head is that I have to really, somehow I felt like I have to really take it to my heart and always remember it, and never settle for what is, and always kind of challenge myself to go further.
That's amazing. I mean, seriously, that, when you're a child and thinking that you gotta go more for the best version of yourself. So as you grew up, what were your interests in life?
My interests have always been actually reading books. I always think that I was quite a boring child, but I used to go. I used to go on a bike and cycling, but I used to spend quite a lot of time actually making gifts for others and trying to make others happy, and reading books and exploring, like going to the forest and seeing what I can find, and what kind of footprints or paw prints I can find from different animals and so on. So really quite connected to nature, I guess, and always quite an explorer.
Oh, wonderful. So as you grew up, how did you bring this interests more in your life, or did they peter out?
I brought it more into my life. So the older I go, I mean, me and my couple of friends were literally in the library every day. People were laughing at us because we were just reading, we were swallowing books. So I continue to read a lot more. I'm still very connected to nature. I love traveling and I love exploring and I love adventures. But my favorite places to go and explore is places that are quite remote, where there aren't that many people, that aren't so touristy, somewhere where you can really get to know the place and its culture and its history, and so on. And I continued my love for education. So I actually had never stopped, and I finished one master's and I go for another. I'm currently studying the psychology of neuroscience of mental health. So I basically have never left school.
And I really like what you mentioned over here, and really never left school. And here's the thing. Life is a school itself. We never leave school because it's a constant learning. And if you do not learn, you're going to stagnate and remain stuck wherever you are at. Because so many times what happens is, as I work with my clients, and my clients will say that it was so profound when this 32-year-old tells me, you know what? I used to be such a perfectionist where I expected myself to do so many things, just everything right. And when I looked at my parents who are in their 60s, they haven't figured out their lives. And why am I being so hard on myself? So, as you mentioned, that I've never left school, we never leave school because there's always another version of you where you can improve things. And that definitely makes sense. So, where were you? Did you go for higher education? And which direction did your career take?
Well, I had actually interest in education, and I 100% agree that life is a school, and I treat my life as a school and a master class. And I think that actually no professional qualification can give you the experience that you can get through life sometimes. But my education, so I initially was educated in environmental protection, and my actual qualification was in water purification and sewage. Very exciting. I then went on to studying engineering, but very quickly realized that I would never ever make a useful engineer. So I decided that this wasn't a route for me. I've always really wanted to be a lawyer when I was young, but I felt like back in Poland, I didn't have the money and I didn't have the connections. It just wasn't something that was within my reach, or so I felt. So then I decided to pack a bag at the age of 20. I didn't speak a word of English. I didn't know anyone. I went to the UK just to learn English, because now I quit university. I couldn't enroll into anything else until the following academic year. So I thought, I've got a few months to do something with myself. And the best thing would be to learn English, because I thought it would be so useful in anything that I want to achieve in life. So I came to the UK. I had to learn the language from scratch, of course. And then I kind of fell into a career of management and leadership. And as soon as I got the opportunity to become a team leader and then a manager, I decided that, wow, I don't really have any experience and I don't know anything about it. So I wanted to have my professional qualifications and life experience and work experience kind of all going in parallel. So I started studying leadership and management, and I spent years doing leadership, management, coaching, mentoring, change, transformation, and HR before getting into psychology and neuroscience. So yeah, a lot of learning in many different ways. But predominantly I've spent majority of my years actually learning leadership and management.
So let's go back to the time when you were 20 years old and you just decided to pack your bag. What was your family's take on it? And what was going through you? Did you have any fears? Or it was just the youth, like, yeah, I'm going to go on an adventure and see how things unfold and take life by.
Well, so I'm the only child, and my mum already lived in Italy at that stage. So I just basically made a decision and communicated it rather than having to ask for permission or anything like that. But of course, I was scared. Because I was on my own, because I didn't speak the language. I didn't know how it's going to work out, but I thought, well, if it doesn't, then I can always go back, right? I know I can go back to Poland and I can figure out something else, but I need to give it a go. And the first few months, like, I'm not going to lie, it was horrendous. It was awful. Like, I was crying every day and I was telling my mom, I don't know if I can do this. And she would tell me, why don't you just go back home and, I'll send you some money. And I was so determined. I was like, no, I am 20 years old. I need to take responsibility for myself and I need to take the lessons that life is trying to teach me here. And I will learn more. So my determination and kind of grit had kept me in the UK for, in the end, 18 years rather than the few months that I initially planned.
Oh, that's fascinating. And so many times what happens is people are risk averse. And now let's say somebody's thinking to make a change or take that leap. What would you tell them based on your experience? Because if you had not gone to UK, your life's trajectory would have been so much different.
Yeah, I think risk is an interesting conversation, really, because so many people are risk averse. But really, there are so very few decisions in life that are irreversible. If you want to try something, just try it. Even if it doesn't work out how you want it to work out, you always learn something, and it will always add value to your life. And I think, even if you decide to do something and it is great, but it isn't quite what you thought it will be, or not, sometimes we think we want to be somewhere and then we get there and we're like, actually, this isn't what we expected. You can always go back to where you were. Like, if you created an experience, or, when people want to transition careers and they tell me, oh, I'm afraid because what if? I'm like, well, you already had one career, or you know how to go and get a job. You know how to be a great employee. Like, if you want to try something else, even if you decide in the end that, after a while, this isn't it, you know how to go and get a job. You know how to have a career. You've already created it once. Like, you can do it again. So because there are so very few decisions that are irreversible or set in stone, I think just go and explore, because the learning that you're going to get from it, regardless of the outcome, is going to be invaluable. And you're going to learn skills and abilities that you won't be able to learn through qualifications or reading books. I can read a book on how to be a pilot, but that does not mean I can go in a plane and be a pilot, or at least I wouldn't want to fly with myself, let alone fly anyone else. So for a lot of things, I think you just have to go with it. And I think that also, like, that leads to self-trust, because you, like, looking back at where I was and who I am now, I have so much self-trust that even if I know that there are so many unknowns, I trust that I will be able to either have the resources within me, or that I will be able to find the resources that I need to do whatever I need to do. And that leads to confidence as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, some really great nuggets over there, Nina. So also, let's revisit. You talked about leadership and management. So did you go back to the corporate world where you stayed on before moving into leadership coaching?
Yeah, well, actually, I had a 17-year-long career within one company in the UK. So since I started, I very quickly progressed to be a manager and then senior manager. And then I ended up developing senior leadership and management training and coaching and all sorts of things. So I spent a lot of years in this area before then moving on to actually reinventing my life again and revolutionizing my life completely, and now working in my own brand and with private clients. So I spent years doing this, and I feel very, very passionate about it, because I feel that the majority of the world, of course, we are all working, and leadership can make such a big difference when it comes to the experience in the workplaces, not just for employees, but for the leaders themselves. So I feel hugely passionate about leadership.
Mm-hmm. So let's look at it from two different perspectives. You mentioned that if leadership is awake, or if leadership is somebody who's ready to lead by example, it can make a huge difference in the workplace culture. So tell us what leaders could be doing to bring that culture, especially in today's situation, because there's so many layoffs happening that people who are left behind, not only they have this sword hanging over their head, gosh, I could be the next one. When is that X going to fall? Or what am I going to talk about my next move? Or how is my career going to look like? There's so many projects are being scrapped. And so many teams have been let go, and remaining teams. And of course, people who are left behind, their morale is down because their coworkers are gone. What would you tell our leaders during today's situation to do so that they can bring the morale up and continue to plow through?
Yeah, we're obviously in a tricky situation as a whole world, really, but that's something that is not very unusual. Like the world goes through crises kind of on a regular basis in a way. And for me, in terms of engaging people and creating a culture, even through difficult times, is actually leading with authenticity. It's not fluffing things and pretending that things are great when they're not great, and being authentic and honest with people and providing clarity. Because I think often it's the lack of clarity that then makes people wonder. And when people wonder and one person says one thing to another, and before you know it, there is lots of different stories and theories being born. And that breeds fear within the organization. And there's no need for it. Of course, times are tricky and sometimes you want to protect people and don't want to share everything. But at the same time, I believe the authenticity, and you saying as a leader, actually, this is a situation that we have never experienced before, or I have never dealt with a situation like this before. Bringing people onto the journey, I think, is really, really important. Because majority of the time, everyone looks up to leadership for the answers. But with COVID, how many leaders had gone through something like COVID before? It was new for everyone. So everyone was learning. And I think it's really inspiring to see leaders talking about, this is the first time we're dealing with it. Let's have a look at how we can all get on board with this, and what everyone's ideas are, and engaging everyone. Because ultimately, I feel like there's always this divide between leadership and employees, and it feels like there's us and them, but we're all adults and we're all humans. And I always feel like, within businesses, we recruit people who are capable of bringing other human beings to the world. They're capable of having, a mortgage and a loan for 30 years and whatever. Yet when they're in the workplace, we don't trust them to do the right things, and we feel like we need to tell them what time to be somewhere, what to wear, and how to behave, and so on. We're adults, and most of the time, of course, there are some tricky cases, but these are exceptions. Most of the time, people come to work and they want to do a really good job. I don't think anyone comes to work or gets up and thinks, today I'm going to be rubbish. Everyone wants to do their best. And I think the more you can engage people and the more you can lead with authenticity, the more people will learn as well. When they see you as a leader behaving in authentic ways and being honest with them, that builds trust, but B, it makes them feel like, okay, it's okay to not always have the answers, and having to figure it out, and work as a team and collaborate in order to figure out the right plan and strategy.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. That makes perfect sense, because when the leaders break that wall between themselves and their reports or employees, because as you mentioned, during pandemic, they did not have that experience either. So when you're vulnerable and when you share, you're bringing yourself to a place where you're a human being who can make mistakes, and then people are definitely open to authenticity. And one of the things that has also led it during the pandemic is creating policies and even getting your employees prepped for crisis management. That, hey, if something like this happens, what can we do? Even like sitting down and bringing the employees within and asking them for resolutions, because so many times what happens is that, leaders may be doing it alone, but as you mentioned, working as a team, that is so powerful, because your employees are living their day-to-day lives on a daily basis. You may think that you understand them, but you may not fully understand. So if you pull them in and make them part of the solution, the results can be so, so different. So as you continued your journey, Nina, what came next?
Well, so when I arrived to the UK, I obviously learned the language. I had an incredible career. In the meantime, I got married. I have two incredible mischievous Dalmatians called Nala and Nikki. So I had the house, the career, the studies, and just the kind of what we perceive as society's successful life. And then that life fell apart, ironically and spectacularly, just after midnight on New Year's Eve, 2021, 2022. So I thought, okay, I have no idea how am I going to get out of this. But when people were telling me, well, this will be a new chapter, it's going to take you 2 or 3 years to get over it, I thought, no, this is an opportunity to write a new book. I want to write a new book, and I will not take 2 or 3 years. I don't know how, but I'll find a way to make sure that I can create something completely different and revolutionize my life again in a much shorter time. So I basically walked away from everything, and I sold, gave away, and donated everything that I had. I packed one suitcase. Again, just like I came to the UK with one suitcase, I packed one suitcase. That was my whole 18 years packed into it. Everything else was gone. I took my 2 doggies and a one-way ticket to Canada, and off I went to create a brand new life. And from that, I started my business, the Midlife Revolution. I took some time out to clear my head, to work out what I wanted, and to figure out that obviously I was on a mission to fulfill the company's mission, the company I was working for, which was incredible, and I had an amazing career with them. But then I thought, okay, well, if I'm not on a mission to fulfill their mission, what mission is my mission, and what mission do I want to be on? And that's how the Midlife Revolution was born, and a creation of a completely different life.
So you mentioned that you took your one-way ticket. How did that work out with your family, with your spouse and kids?
Well, we didn't have kids, and actually part of my life falling apart was getting divorced through what I found out.
Sorry, I thought you mentioned. My apologies.
No, it's okay. So there was no really family to worry about other than making sure that the dogs are okay, and we're having a great time.
Oh, my apologies. My sincere apologies, Nina. And okay. Wow. So, and what was going through your mind at that time? Because it's a tough situation to be in.
It was a tough situation to be in. But what was going through my mind was that actually, our life here is such a brief sparkle. And I thought this is an opportunity for me to create another version of me, create another life that I haven't experienced yet. And again, going back to what I mentioned before, I thought, well, if this doesn't work out, and I didn't really know what I wanted. I thought I just wanted a blank page to start with and see what happens, and kind of allow the space to create something new. Because I feel that if we fill our lives with constantly doing the same things, then you don't allow space for anything new to come in, because you don't have time, because we get busy. So I thought I'm going to open up my whole time and see what emerges, and a completely different life emerged, which has been amazing. But what was going through my mind, of course, is practicalities of like, how am I going to drive on the other side of the road? Like, my mind would drive me crazy, be like, how will you do this? So this is like, I had to really manage my mind in terms of the fear that it was feeding me in. Of course, I had thoughts like, what if this doesn't work out? What are you going to do? But it is about really managing your thoughts, and creating that trust and relationship with your own mind, to be like, okay, well, thanks for the warning. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but actually I choose to still do this. Otherwise I will be stuck in the same place. So things were going through my mind. Again, what I mentioned, well, if this doesn't work out, I know how to go and get a job. I can always come back to the UK. And of course, I no longer had property. I no longer had marriage, and I no longer had the career. or anything else. But I thought, well, if I did it once, I can do it again. But this time I wanted it to be more intentional than when I came to the UK as a 20-year-old who was just like, okay, I just want to learn.
Yeah, I really like that. What you mentioned about that didn't matter because I had achieved something once, I could go and achieve something else. So, what I'm hearing is that it's critical not to have the eye on the prize or about the goal that you may have achieved or trying to achieve. It's about becoming the person who can achieve any goal. Because if you have that resiliency and adaptive mindset that's ready to grow and take risks, you can achieve goals.
Absolutely. And I talk about becoming so much because for me, this is key. And very often when we talk about becoming, people create that kind of future version of who they want to be or the career they want to have and so on. And they create separation because it's always in the future. It's never here. I always have to do something to get there. And that is true. But you don't suddenly wake up one day and be like, I'm a different version of me today. You have to become it. And in order to become it, for me, it is about creating, like, what's the end goal? Where do you want to go? What's your destination? The anchor, that's a one thing. But then who do you need to be in order to create the outcome that you want to create? And then in order to become the person you need to be in order to create the outcome that you want, rather than waiting for some miracle overnight when you wake up and you're like, hey, I'm this person now. It's every day from the minute you create the person that you know you want to become. Every day you practice becoming this person. So rather than making decisions based on who I am today, I think, okay, well, if I want to be this in 5 or 10 years' time, what sort of decision would I make from that position? Who am I going to be there? And like, how would I behave? And what actions would I take? And that's how you become. Every day you go to your future and you think, what would they think? What would they do? How would they behave? And then before you know it, you are it and you have become. But to me also, becoming is a lot about not so much becoming someone else because there's something wrong with you or you lack something or you're not good enough. For me, it's the opposite. For me, it's removing all the kind of conditioning that we've put on ourselves and the expectations of what we should or who we should be or who we should, what we should do and what we should have. Is removing all of that and going back to the heart center and be like, what does success mean to me? Like, what's my definition of success? What's my definition of happiness? Creating all of this and then becoming the person you need to become by removing the kind of pressure and expectations, sometimes real, sometimes perceived, because I feel that sometimes we feel like we are expected to be, do, or have certain things by maybe society or parents or teachers. But that's just in our heads. It's not actually true a lot of the times. But removing all of that and just really going within to find out what is it that matters to you and who do you want to become and why.
Some really wise learnings over there, Nina. So let me ask you this. A lot of people, so actually, if we go and take a look at stats, 92% of people fail when they have set their New Year's resolution. Only 8% of people are able to achieve their New Year's resolution. So if you were to take your learnings and distill it down to maybe 3 or 4 key steps, and maybe some of them you've already mentioned, what would those be so that people can revolutionize the new year and achieve their New Year's resolutions?
I think the biggest thing with New Year's resolutions is what we talked about in terms of becoming, right? You decide that you suddenly want to, I don't know, get fitter or learn a language or do something new. But your mind and body are conditioned to think certain things, to believe in certain things. And these are the conditionings that we've put in over the years. So when you suddenly decide, if you have been eating, let's say, lots of cake throughout the past 10 years, and suddenly you're like, from January the 1st, I'm not going to eat more, like so much cake. Like the willpower and the enthusiasm that you have at the start only lasts for so long. But in the meantime, obviously your mind and your body are conditioned to have that cake. So your mind is used to thinking about cake every day because that's what it was doing for the past however many years. And of course, if your mind is thinking about the cake, then you feel the hunger because your body gets hungry for it and you're probably addicted to sugar as well. So all of that doesn't go away with you setting the goal of eating less cake. And I'm using cake because I'm also eating less cake now. But it could be it could be anything. So your mind and body are conditioned and addicted to certain thoughts and behaviors and how we are. So in order for you to change or transform, you really need to start with the mindset. You really need to assess what's going on in there and then change it, because otherwise, when the willpower goes, the enthusiasm goes, your mind and body will drag you back to right where you were, prior to January. And that's why New Year's resolutions don't really work, because you haven't changed who you are in order to be who you need to be to achieve the goal that you want to achieve. So for me, the first bit is obviously the mindset, and I like to call it mindscaping, because you have to see what weeds you have been cultivating over the years, what kind of thoughts and beliefs that are not helpful, that will get in the way of you achieving your New Year's resolution. So being aware of this gives you then the power to change this and plant new seeds. So plant thoughts and beliefs that will help you to achieve your success. And beliefs are nothing more than a thought that you thought enough times. And often people take it as my belief is true and is right. And it's not. It's just a thought that you thought enough times for it to become a belief. So if you have got beliefs that are not useful, you can change them to something that will support your goal rather than be against your goal. The other thing for me is that clarity on what is the destination of travel, where do you want to go and what you're aiming for, exactly the definitions that I mentioned. What's your definition of happiness or success or whatever it is that you want to create? And that really needs to be something that matters to you, not what you think society expects or not what you think your mother expects or your husband or wife or partner. What matters to you, because ultimately it needs to drive you. So it needs to be the key and come from you rather than anyone else. And once you know that, then you need to establish, okay, who do I need to become in order to achieve this goal? And then you create that kind of, I called myself Nina Volume 3 when I was becoming who I am today. You create that character and then you start becoming every day by making decisions from that volume that you're becoming rather than from who you are today. Because if you constantly just do the same things as you have always done, then you're not going to create anything new. We already know that doing the same things and expecting different results is called insanity. So you need to become someone else. But the other thing for me is you do need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to try different things. There is no growth in a comfort zone. It's comfortable, but that's where dreams go to die. So if you want to achieve something, you need to push yourself. And I think the final bit for me is look for experts, look for masters, look for people who have done what you want to do, look for people who inspire you, and really be mindful of what you're filling your head with. Because if you're filling your head with constant fear and things that scare you, and you're programming your mind to feel like the world is a bad place, well, that's the examples that you're going to see everywhere. But if you want to achieve something big and positive, look for the positive examples. Look for the people that have done it. Go and hire that coach. I've always worked with coaches, mentors, therapists, academics, literally anyone who, whenever I want to achieve something, I know I can learn things myself, but I know it's going to take me longer. And I know I'm going to make mistakes that I don't need to make. And it's inspiring to learn from someone who, has done what you want to do, or who is helping people to achieve what you want to achieve. And I think it's so wonderful to be able to learn from a diverse group of people. I mean, I learn from so many different people that are so different that sometimes my friends are like, how do you do this? Because these people are completely opposite. But this is, to me, what's fascinating, because that's what then gets you to think, what do I really think? And what are my thoughts and beliefs and so on, and how am I shaping to be? So I think never ever underestimate the help of experts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Have somebody by your side who has walked the road before, because that's going to cut short the time you would spend yourself making mistakes and learning by trials and errors versus learning from somebody else's trials and errors. So tell us more about the midlife crisis and revolution that you have talked about.
Yeah, well, this is interesting because actually the midlife revolution came from me revolutionizing my life completely last year. And I was laughing that my case looks like a stereotypical midlife crisis case where she packed one bag, took the dogs, and off she went with a one-way ticket. But actually, it was a midlife revolution. And I'm passionate about it because midlife crisis is perceived as something so negative. Where in actual fact, I think it's natural and very human for us to at some point wake up and be like, what am I doing? Is there more? What's my mission? Because when we're young, we get into the careers with great enthusiasm. Obviously, sometimes you go into, some people know from a young age who they want to be, and they go into their career, but majority of people don't. So we fall into different things, just like I fell into management and leadership. And I've loved it, and it's my passion. But there is a point in life for a lot of people where the years become very similar, where it's just like work, eat, sleep, repeat, the same birthdays, Christmases, other celebrations, and so on. And it's like, oh, was it last year or 2 years ago? And we get so busy that we can't even remember what we had for breakfast yesterday, if we had time for breakfast. And then at some point, people go, is this it for the rest of my life? Is this it, or is there more? I was speaking to someone not that long ago, and she was saying, I had the house, the family, the job, but I was on the same motorway with my husband every day, and I asked myself, is this it? The house, the children, and the job? Like, what else is there? Like, this is like, there must be something else. So I think because when we're young, we are going for experiences we haven't experienced yet. So it's new, it's exciting. But then we get to midlife and it's like, well, I've already experienced a lot of things. So what else is out there? And if we're not careful, that's what leads to midlife crisis, because you're searching for something that's actually within, but we don't often look within. It's often people go to, I need that car, or I need the house, or I need the new career. Sometimes people go and get involved in behaviors that they wouldn't otherwise get involved in, like having affairs and so on, because they're searching for something that will bring that different experience and more meaning. Where in actual fact, you need to look within. So there is no need for me. The crisis in itself as a word is a very negative word, right? So is it really a midlife crisis, or it's basically a period of time where you reflect and think, what else do I want for the rest of my life? And who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? Like, what matters to me? And it's just a period of reevaluation and saying, is this the experience that I'm creating for myself? Is it the experience that I want? Or actually, do I want to create something else? And if so, let's go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go for it. And listeners, if you're thinking of making a change, you got this. I believe in you. And very profound. It's let's go for it. So, Nina, tell us where people can connect with you. How can they reach out to you?
Of course. So people can connect with me via my website. So it's just www.themidliferevolution.com. People can email me on nina@themidliferevolution.com. I'm also on Instagram under Nina_the_midlife_revolution. And I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn under NINASZEWCZAK. I know it's not the easiest surname to say. And yeah, so I'm all over social media and people can reach out directly to me. And I've also got some free ebooks to download if people wanted to check out my website and connect that way. And I'm always happy to answer any questions or, share my story or do whatever helps, because I really believe that what really makes our lives amazing is being able to help each other. Like, we're not islands, and being able to help each other as humans and building communities is super important.
We are not islands. Absolutely. I could not agree more. So if you were to leave with our audience with 3 actionable items that they could just go and do it straight, what would those be?
First action would be just take a second to think, like, reflect on how are you feeling right now, and how much time are you spending feeling happy against how much time you're feeling angry or frustrated and so on. Just do a little bit of an assessment of how you're feeling. And then decide whether this is how you want to spend the rest of your life. And if not, if you want to create more bliss, more happiness, more joy, then crack on with it. The other thing I think as an actionable thing is, if you, and this week is the week where majority of our New Year's resolutions, go and be put in a box for next year. If this is you and your New Year's resolution is fading away, bring it back. Remember why you set it in the first place. Remember what you wanted to achieve by having it, because it's not the thing or the outcome that we actually want. It's the feeling that comes with it that we are after, right? It's going to make you happier, or it's going to give you freedom or whatever. Bring that back. And never forget that, because this is what needs to drive you towards your resolution or revolution or goal or whatever you want to call it. But just go for it. So that's like action number 2 that you can take immediately. And action number 3 is, who do you want to become? Like, who do you want to become? Create that, and basically start working on it every day. Because I believe that the human potential is infinite. It is infinite. The power of our mind and power of our hearts is it's incredible. And the human mind and our body is the most sophisticated and intelligent piece of kit, if I can call it this way, on the planet. And it's free and it's yours, and anyone can create anything. So don't let anything, stand in your way of creating the experience you want, because at the end of our journey on the planet, you and only you will be the judge of how much you have lived and how much you have created the experience that you wanted.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Nina, for joining us. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and I've had a fantastic time, and I hope it was helpful, but thank you so much for having me.
I am positive that our listeners will continue to, like today, I'm positive they've enjoyed. And also, as people listen to and watch, they are going to be getting a lot of nuggets that they can apply and implement and apply in their lives. So thank you. And listeners, thank you for joining us, because without you, the show would not be possible. And as we have shared, it is not the goal that you achieve, it's the person you become. And when you become that person, your life is beautiful. Check out Nina's website. I'm sure you're going to find a ton of nuggets over there, as well as connect with her. And I look forward to hearing from you as to how we can support you and how we can help you make you become the person you want to be and live the lifestyle that you deserve to. So know that we are here to serve and support you. And thank you, Juan, for making the show possible. So folks, until next time, take care and be well.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.